The video message arrived at 11:47 p.m. while I was reviewing quarterly reports. My 17-year-old daughter's face filled the phone screen, but something was wrong. Her usual bright smile was replaced by a tight-lipped expression I'd never seen before. "Dad, you need to see this." Lara's voice cracked slightly. "Mom thinks I'm asleep, but I heard voices on the balcony next door." The camera shook as she moved toward what looked like sliding glass doors. Through the gap in the curtains, I could see my wife, Verena, pressed against the railing of their resort balcony. She wasn't alone. A shirtless man with long hair pulled into a ponytail had his hands around her waist. They were kissing like teenagers, completely oblivious to the world around them. My wife of 19 years, the woman who'd kissed me goodbye at the airport just 3 days earlier, was grinding against a stranger while our daughter watched in horror. "Dad, that's the fifth guy." Lara's whisper was barely audible. "I've been keeping track." She told each one that she was single. The phone went dark. Then a text appeared. "I'm scared. Please come get me." I set down my coffee mug with trembling hands. 24 hours ago, I'd been Noel Farron, devoted husband and father, regional supervisor at Mitchell Logistics, living what I thought was a perfect suburban life in Denver. Now I was staring at evidence that my entire marriage was a lie. The next message from Lara contained an address: Paradise Cove Resort, Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. I was already reaching for my laptop to book the first flight out. The plane touched down in Los Cabos at 2:15 p.m. the following day. I'd spent the entire 6-hour flight staring out the window, my mind cycling through every possible explanation for what I'd seen. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Verena had been drunk and made a mistake. Maybe... My phone buzzed with another video from Lara. This one showed Verena at the resort's pool bar surrounded by 3 different men from the night before. She was wearing a tiny red bikini I'd never seen, laughing as one of them fed her a strawberry from his drink. Her wedding ring was nowhere to be seen. "She told the bartender she was celebrating her divorce," Lara's voice narrated from behind the camera. I heard her say she was finally free from her boring husband, who never understood her wild side. I watched my wife of 19 years accept a shot of tequila from a man young enough to be her son, then kiss him full on the mouth as the other resort. Guests cheered. Someone in the background was filming with their phone. The video ended, but not before I caught sight of something that made my blood run cold. In the corner of the frame, I could see Lara sitting alone at a small table, tears streaming down her face as she watched her mother's performance. I closed my eyes and made a decision that would change everything. The Paradise Cove Resort was exactly what I'd expected. Overpriced paradise for middle-aged Americans looking to recapture their youth. I checked in under the name David Thompson, using a credit card I'd opened years ago for business emergencies. The desk clerk, a young woman with practiced hospitality, handed me a key card and directions to the pool area. "Are you here for the singles mixer tonight, Mr. Thompson?" she asked with a bright smile. "Singles mixer?" "Oh yes, it's very popular with our guests. Lots of divorced folks looking to mingle. Your wife might enjoy it." "I'm not married," I lied smoothly. "Just needed a getaway." She winked. "Well then, you'll fit right in. Pool deck at 8. I took the elevator to the 7th floor, found my room, and immediately began preparing. From my luggage, I pulled out a small digital camera I'd purchased at the Denver airport. Nothing fancy, but it would record in high definition. I also had a cheap tablet and a portable Wi-Fi hotspot. If Verena wanted to play games, I'd document every move. My first stop was the hotel's business center, where I printed out copies of our joint bank statements, credit card bills, and mortgage documents. Then I called my brother Wesley, who worked as a private investigator in Phoenix. "Noel, what's wrong? You sound like someone died." "Someone did," I said quietly. "My marriage. I need your help, Wes." I explained the situation in clinical detail, keeping my emotions locked down tight. Wesley listened without interrupting, occasionally making small notes. "Jesus, Noel, I'm sorry, man. What do you need from me?" "Background checks on anyone she's with down here. Photos, names, social media profiles, everything. Can you get here by tomorrow?" "Already booking my flight. And Noel, don't do anything stupid until I arrive." "Too late for that," I said, watching through my hotel window as Verena led 2 different men toward the resort spa. "I'm already here." I spent the rest of the afternoon conducting surveillance like a professional. The Paradise Cove was designed for maximum social interaction. Multiple bars, a large pool area, hot tubs positioned for intimate conversations, and a private cabanas that rented by the hour. Verena was holding court at the swim-up bar, surrounded by her rotating cast of admirers. I positioned myself behind a palm tree with a clear view, the camera ready. The man I'd seen on the balcony, the one with the ponytail, Turned out to be Jonas Lockhart, according to his name tag. He was one of the resort's yoga instructors, probably in his early 40s, with the kind of smooth confidence that attracted lonely tourists. I watched him whisper something in Verina's ear that made her throw back her head and laugh. She looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. That realization hit me harder than watching her kiss strangers. Over the next few hours, I documented everything. Verina disappearing into a cabana with a heavyset man in expensive swim trunks. Jonas bringing her drinks while she flirted with a group of college-age guys. The moment she slipped her hotel key card into the back pocket of a muscular guy with military tattoos. By sunset, I had enough evidence to destroy her in any divorce court in America. But I was just getting started. My phone rang at 7:30 p.m. Laura's name appeared on the screen. Dad, are you here? I'm here, sweetheart. Are you safe? I'm in our room. Mom thinks I'm getting ready for dinner, but I saw you by the pool. What are you going to do? The trust in her voice nearly broke me. Here was my 17-year-old daughter, forced to watch her mother's betrayal, looking to me for guidance and protection. I'm going to end this, I said simply, tonight. But I need you to stay in your room no matter what happens, okay? Lock the door and don't come out until I text you. Dad, I'm scared. Don't be. Your mom made her choices. Now she gets to live with the consequences. I ended the call and checked my equipment one final time. The camera had a full battery and plenty of memory. The tablet was connected to both the hotel Wi-Fi and my mobile hotspot. Everything was ready. At exactly 8 p.m., I walked onto the pool deck where the singles mixer was in full swing. A DJ was playing generic resort music while dozens of guests mingled around the bar and dance area. Colored lights reflected off the water, creating the perfect romantic atmosphere for wealthy Americans to make bad decisions. I found Verina immediately. She was dancing with Jonas near the hot tub, her body pressed against his while her other admirers watched from nearby tables. She'd changed into a short black dress that I'd never seen before, something designed to be removed quickly. I started recording and walked directly toward them. Verina. My wife spun around, her face cycling through confusion, recognition, and pure terror in the span of 3 seconds. Noel? What? How did you? Surprise, honey. I held up the camera, making sure the red recording light was visible. Having fun on your girls' trip? The music seemed to fade as nearby guests turned to watch our confrontation. Jonas stepped protectively in front of Verina, his yoga instructor confidence suddenly looking forced. Hey man, I think there's been a misunderstanding, he said with a practiced smile. This lady said she was divorced. Did she now? I kept the camera focused on Verina's face. That's interesting, because we're still very much married. 19 years next month, actually. Verina's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The confident, radiant woman from the afternoon had been replaced by someone who looked like she might vomit. Noel, let me explain. Explain what? How you've been screwing half the resort while our daughter watches. How you told everyone you were divorced. How you took off your wedding ring and pretended I didn't exist. The crowd around us had grown larger. Someone else was filming with their phone, and I could see the distinctive red recording dot of a live stream in progress. Please, Verina whispered. Not here. Not like this. You chose here, I said, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet pool area. You chose to humiliate our family in public, so let's discuss it in public. Jonas made the mistake of putting his hand on my shoulder. Look, buddy, maybe you should... I turned the camera toward him. Jonas Lockhart, right? Yoga instructor, originally from Portland, Oregon, currently working at Paradise Cove on a tourist visa that expires next month. His face went pale. How did you... I'm very thorough. I focused back on Verina. Just like I was thorough when I froze all our joint accounts this morning, and when I filed for divorce, and when I changed the locks on our house. Verina staggered backward like I'd slapped her. You can't do that. Already done. Check your bank cards. She fumbled for her purse, pulled out her wallet, and tried to use her credit card on her phone. The transaction was declined. She tried again with a different card. Declined. You fool! She hissed. I'm the fool? I'm not the one who brought our teenage daughter on vacation just so I could cheat with strangers. The crowd was completely silent now except for the sound of camera phones recording everything. I could see the viral potential spreading in real time. Wealthy suburban mom caught cheating, confronted by husband at Mexican resort, filmed by dozens of witnesses. Jonas tried to defuse the situation. Hey everyone, show's over. Let's give these people some privacy. Privacy? I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. She gave up privacy when she decided to perform for the entire resort. Did you know she's been with 5 different men in 3 days, Jonas? You're just the latest in a very long line. That got a reaction from the crowd. Someone gasped. Someone else muttered, "Holy crap," loud enough to be heard. Verina's face went from pale to red. You're embarrassing me. I'm embarrassing you? You embarrassed yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows who they're dealing with. I turned to address the crowd, keeping the camera rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to my wife, Verina Farron. She told all of you she was divorced, but that was a lie. She's been married to me for 19 years and brought our 17-year-old daughter on this vacation as cover for her affair with Mr. Lockhart here and several of your husbands. The reaction was immediate and brutal. Several women in the crowd turned to stare at their own partners, suspicion replacing curiosity. I could see relationships fracturing in real time. Jonas finally snapped. That's enough. He lunged toward me, trying to grab the camera. I sidestepped easily. Regional supervisor work keeps you fit, and let his momentum carry him straight into the pool with a tremendous splash. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. Someone shouted, "World Star!" Another person yelled, "Get him, husband!" Security arrived within minutes. 2 large men in hotel uniforms who looked like they'd handled plenty of resort drama. "Sir, we're going to need you to come with us," the larger one said to me. Of course. I stopped recording and pocketed the camera. I was just leaving anyway. As they escorted me toward the lobby, I heard Verina behind me. "Noel, wait. We need to talk." I didn't turn around. "Talk to my lawyer." The hotel security office was exactly what I'd expected. A small room with monitors showing feeds from around the resort. The head of security, a professional woman in her 50s, reviewed the incident with practiced efficiency. "Mr. Thompson, I understand this is a difficult situation, but we can't have guests disrupting other guests' experiences. I understand completely. I'll be checking out in the morning." She nodded. "That would be best. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about your situation. I've seen this kind of thing before." "How often?" "More than you'd think. Social media has made everyone feel like they can reinvent themselves on vacation." She paused. "The other gentleman, Mr. Lockhart, has been terminated. We can't have staff involved in this kind of drama." I felt the first genuine smile I'd managed in days. "That's unfortunate for him. Indeed. His work visa was sponsored by the resort, so he'll need to return to the United States immediately. Even better." Jonas was about to discover that his problems were just beginning. I returned to my room and immediately uploaded the confrontation video to a cloud storage account, then made copies on multiple devices. By the time I finished, it was nearly midnight. My phone buzzed with a text from Lara. "Dad, are you okay?" Mom came back to the room crying and screaming. "She's throwing things. Stay locked in the bathroom until she calms down. I'm handling everything." "What happens now?" I stared out at the resort lights reflecting off the ocean, thinking about the life I'd built over nearly 2 decades and how completely it had been destroyed in 3 days. Now we go home and start over. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I spent the hours before dawn researching every person I'd seen Verina with over the past few days. Thanks to social media and public records, it was easier than I'd expected. The heavy-set man in expensive swim trunks was William Patterson, a married insurance executive from Dallas, whose wife was very active on Instagram. The military tattoo guy was Steve Morrison, recently divorced, but still paying alimony to his ex-wife. The college-age group included 2 trust fund kids whose parents were prominent in San Francisco society. By 6 a.m., I had names, addresses, employers, and family information for all 6 of Verina's conquests. More importantly, I had their social media profiles and the photos they'd posted from Paradise Cove. William Patterson had uploaded a series of pictures with his new friend Verina, including one where she was clearly visible in the background of his poolside selfie. His wife had commented with heart emojis, completely unaware that her husband was cheating. Steve Morrison had posted a video of himself doing shots with the hottest divorced mom in Cabo. The timestamp showed it was recorded the same night Verina had called me to say goodnight to Lara. The trust fund kids had been more careless, uploading multiple photos and videos that clearly showed Verina in various stages of undress and intoxication. I began downloading everything before they realized their mistake and started deleting evidence. My phone rang at 7:30 a.m. Wesley's name on the screen. "I'm at the Los Cabos airport. Where do you want to meet?" Hotel lobby in an hour. And Wes, bring your laptop. We have work to do. Wesley looked like an older, more cynical version of me. Same dark hair, same build, but with the weathered face of someone who'd spent 15 years investigating other people's worst moments. Jesus, Noel, you look like hell. Feel worse. What did you find? We found a quiet corner of the hotel restaurant and Wesley opened his laptop. Your wife's been busy. I ran background checks on all 6 guys from the photos you sent. He pulled up a series of files. Jonas Lockhart, yoga instructor / con artist. He's been working resort jobs across Mexico for 3 years, always getting fired for inappropriate relationships with guests. Currently owes back taxes in Oregon and has a warrant for unpaid child support. Child support? 2 kids in Portland. Baby mama's been trying to track him down for 18 months. Wesley clicked to another file. William Patterson, insurance executive, married 23 years, 3 kids. Clean record, good credit, no criminal history. Devoted family man until 3 days ago. Keep going. Steve Morrison, former Army Ranger, currently works construction in Phoenix. His divorce was finalized 6 months ago after his wife caught him cheating. He's already behind on his alimony payments. Wesley continued through the list. 2 college seniors whose parents funded their spring break adventures, and a local Mexican businessman who owned several bars in the tourist district. Here's the interesting part, Wesley said, pulling up a new screen. I cross-referenced their social media posts with the hotel's guest list and security footage. Your wife isn't just cheating. She's working these guys systematically. What do you mean? Look at the timeline. Day 1, she hooks up with Patterson, the rich insurance guy. Gets him to pay for drinks, dinner, spa treatments. Day 2, she meets the college kids, gets them to buy her jewelry from the hotel gift shop. Day 3, Morrison pays for a sunset cruise. Day 4, Jonas gives her free yoga sessions and massage therapy. I stared at the evidence laid out on Wesley's screen. She's scamming them. More than that. Look at this. He showed me a series of text messages between Verena and an unknown number. I pulled these from a contact at the phone company. She's been texting someone named Sandra, giving detailed reports on each guy's financial situation. The messages were devastating. Patterson's loaded but suspicious. Won't give me his room number. College boys are easy marks. Already got $800 in jewelry. Morrison is broke but good for drinks. Jonas is getting clingy. Think I can get Patterson to pay for a shopping trip tomorrow. Play the lonely divorced mom angle. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. How long has this been going on? Wesley pulled up more files. Based on her travel history, she's taken similar girls' trips with Lara 4 times in the past 2 years. Always to resort destinations. Always posting about being newly single. Always coming home with expensive gifts she claimed were from you. The scope of the betrayal was breathtaking. Not only had Verena been cheating, she'd been running elaborate cons on strangers while using our daughter as cover. Lara had been unwittingly participating in fraud schemes for years. There's more, Wesley said quietly. I found something else. He opened a new browser tab showing a dating website called Resort Connections. Verena's profile was featured prominently, using professional photos I'd never seen. Recently divorced travel agent looking for adventure and generous companions. Love luxury resorts, fine dining, and making new friends. Available for travel with the right person. The profile was detailed, sophisticated, and completely fake. According to the site, she'd been active for over a year, connecting with dozens of men across multiple resort destinations. She's been planning this for a long time, I said. Gets worse. Look at her earnings. Wesley showed me transaction records from a linked payment account. She's made over $40,000 in the past year from these dates. Cash, gifts, jewelry, expensive dinners, all documented. I leaned back in my chair, processing the magnitude of what I was seeing. My wife hadn't just cheated on me. She'd turned infidelity into a business model. What do you want to do? Wesley asked. I looked around the hotel restaurant, watching other families enjoying their vacations, completely unaware that their perfect resort paradise was built on lies and exploitation. I want to destroy her, I said quietly. Completely. Professionally. Financially. Socially. I want her to lose everything. Wesley nodded. I can help with that. But once we start down this road, there's no going back. You sure you want to do this? I thought about Lara, forced to watch her mother's performance while pretending to be asleep. I thought about 19 years of marriage revealed as an elaborate con game. I thought about all the nights Verena had come home from her business trips with expensive gifts and stories about difficult clients. I'm sure. Then let's get to work. We spent the next 4 hours planning Verina's destruction with the methodical precision of a military operation. Wesley's investigative background proved invaluable. He knew exactly how to gather evidence, build cases, and deploy information for maximum impact. Step 1 was immediate: contacting the wives and employers of every man Verina had scammed. William Patterson's wife deserved to know her husband was cheating. Steve Morrison's ex-wife deserved to know he was spending alimony money on other women. The trust fund kids' parents deserved to know their sons were being exploited by a professional con artist. Step 2 was financial: documenting every fraudulent transaction, every fake expense claim, every lie she'd told about her business trips. Wesley had contacts in banking and credit reporting who could trace money flows with surgical precision. Step 3 was legal: building an airtight divorce case that would leave Verina with nothing. Colorado was a no-fault divorce state, but infidelity and fraud were still relevant for asset division and spousal support. Step 4 was social: ensuring that Verina's reputation was destroyed so completely that she'd never be able to run another con. The key is timing, Wesley explained. Strike them all simultaneously so she can't do damage control. Once this goes public, every man she's scammed will face consequences at home and work. They'll be too busy protecting themselves to help her. We started with William Patterson. Wesley called his office in Dallas, claiming to be investigating insurance fraud. Within an hour, Patterson was on a plane home to face his wife's questions about his Mexico expenses. Steve Morrison was easier. A simple anonymous tip to his ex-wife about his social media posts was enough to trigger a court hearing about his alimony payments. The college kids' parents received anonymous packages containing printed copies of their son's social media posts, along with screenshots of Verina's dating profile and evidence of the money they'd spent on her. Jonas was already ruined, fired from his job and facing deportation. But Wesley added insult to injury by contacting his baby mama in Portland with his current location. "That takes care of the men," Wesley said, closing his laptop. "Now for the main event." I looked at my phone. It was nearly 2 p.m., and Laura had been texting me updates about Verina's increasingly erratic behavior. She'd spent the morning calling lawyers, trying unsuccessfully to access our bank accounts, and screaming at hotel management about the previous night's maltreatment. "She's going to try to fly home today," I said. "Should we let her?" Wesley smiled grimly. "Oh, we're definitely letting her fly home. She's going to walk into the perfect trap." Verina's first surprise came at the airport. Her credit cards were declined when she tried to change her and Laura's flight to an earlier departure. The airline agent, a patient woman who'd clearly dealt with frustrated travelers before, suggested she contact her bank. Verina spent 20 minutes on the phone with customer service, her voice rising with each transfer and hold period. Finally, she was told that a fraud alert had been placed on all accounts pending an investigation. "What investigation?" she shouted into the phone, drawing stares from other passengers. I watched from across the terminal, recording everything with a small camera. Laura sat beside her mother, looking embarrassed and anxious. The bank representative's explanation was brief. Someone had reported suspicious charges on the account, including large cash withdrawals and unusual spending patterns at international locations. All cards would remain frozen until the primary account holder, me, provided authorization. Verina ended the call and immediately tried calling me. I let it go to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. On the third attempt, I answered. "No, well, thank God. There's been some kind of mistake with our accounts." "No mistake," I said calmly. "I put a fraud hold on everything yesterday morning. You've been using our joint funds to finance your affairs." "That's ridiculous. You've never what? Taken $40,000 from our savings to pay for dates with strangers? Never claimed business expenses for personal trips? Never lied about where you were and who you were with?" Silence on the other end. "The accounts will stay frozen until our divorce is finalized. If you need money for the flight home, I suggest you call one of your new friends." I ended the call and watched as Verina stared at her phone in disbelief. She tried calling back, but I'd already blocked her number. Her next move was predictable. She approached Jonas, who was sitting nearby, waiting for his own flight back to the United States. Their conversation was brief and clearly heated. Jonas shook his head repeatedly, gesturing at his own phone and wallet. Finally, Verina returned to Laura, her face red with embarrassment and rage. They spoke quietly for several minutes before Laura pulled out her own credit card, a student account I'd set up for emergencies. My daughter was paying for her mother's plane ticket home. I felt a surge of protective anger unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Verina had already stolen her husband, her marriage, and her dignity. Now she was taking money from her own child. I made a mental note to add that to the list of things she'd pay for. The flight back to Denver was torture. I deliberately booked a seat several rows behind Verena and Lara, close enough to monitor the situation, but far enough to avoid another confrontation. Verena spent the entire flight alternating between frantic phone calls and furious text messages. I could see her trying to reach William Patterson, Steve Morrison, and the other men from the resort. Based on her increasingly desperate expressions, none of them were responding. Lara sat beside her mother in silence, occasionally glancing back toward me with an expression I couldn't quite read. She looked older somehow, like the events of the past few days had aged her beyond her 17 years. Halfway through the flight, Verena turned around and tried to approach my seat. A flight attendant intercepted her before she could get close. "Ma'am, I need you to return to your seat. I need to speak to my husband." "Sir?" The flight attendant looked at me. "Do you want to speak with this passenger?" "No, thank you." Verena's face went white with rage, but she returned to her seat without further argument. She spent the rest of the flight staring out the window, occasionally wiping tears from her eyes. I felt nothing watching her cry. The man who would have comforted his wife's distress had died in a hotel room in Mexico. The person sitting in his seat was someone harder, colder, and infinitely more focused. We landed in Denver at 8:30 p.m. I waited until Verena and Lara had left the plane before collecting my bags and heading home. I wanted to give Verena time to discover what was waiting for her. Wesley had been busy during our flight. The house locks had been changed, a security system had been installed, and all of Verena's personal belongings had been packed and placed in the garage. A notice of divorce proceedings had been taped to the front door, along with a restraining order that prohibited her from entering the property. I parked in the driveway and walked to the front door, where I could see the glow of phone screens from inside. Verena and Lara were sitting on the front porch, surrounded by luggage. "Noel, please," Verena said as I approached. "We need to talk about this rationally. There's nothing to discuss. The divorce papers explain everything. You can't just lock me out of my own house. It's not your house, it's my house. Check the deed. It's in my name only, purchased before our marriage with money from my inheritance." That was only partially true. While the house was technically in my name, Verena could have claimed partial ownership under Colorado's marital property laws. But she didn't know that, and I wasn't about to educate her. "What about Lara?" "You can't keep me from my daughter. Lara's 18 and 6 months. She can make her own decisions about where she wants to live." I turned to my daughter, who'd been silent throughout this exchange. "Sweetheart, do you want to stay with your mother or come inside?" Lara looked between us for a long moment, then picked up her bag and walked toward the front door. "I'm sorry, Mom," she said quietly, "but I saw what you did." "I can't pretend it didn't happen." Verena's face crumpled. "Baby, please. I made mistakes, but I'm still your mother. My mother wouldn't have used me as cover to cheat on my father. My mother wouldn't have made me lie to him about where we were and what we were doing." The words hit harder than any accusation I could have made. Verena staggered backward as if she'd been physically struck. "Lara, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. I've been watching you lie to people for years. I just didn't know you were lying to Dad, too." I unlocked the front door and held it open for my daughter. As we stepped inside, I could hear Verena behind us, her voice rising to a desperate wail. "This isn't over, Noel. You can't destroy 19 years of marriage over one mistake." I paused in the doorway and turned back to face her. "One mistake? You've been running cons on strangers for over a year. You've stolen $40,000 from our joint accounts. You brought our daughter on fake business trips so you could commit infidelity and fraud." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. "And tomorrow morning, everyone's going to know about it." The viral video from the resort had already been uploaded to YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. In less than 24 hours, it had accumulated over 100,000 views and thousands of comments. Someone had given it the hashtag #ResortRavager, and it was trending across multiple platforms. Verena watched her public humiliations spread across social media in real time, her face reflecting the glow of the screen. "You fool," she whispered. "I'm the fool who's going to make sure you never hurt anyone else the way you hurt us." I closed the door, leaving her alone on the porch with her luggage and her lies. The next morning brought the first wave of consequences. I woke up to dozens of missed calls and text messages, most from numbers I didn't recognize. William Patterson's wife had found the evidence Wesley sent her. She'd confronted her husband, who'd confessed to the affair and begged for forgiveness. Their divorce attorney had been contacted before sunrise. Steve Morrison's ex-wife had filed a motion to increase his alimony payments, citing evidence that he was spending money on other women while claiming financial hardship. His construction company had also received anonymous complaints about his social media behavior, raising questions about his professionalism. The college kid's parents had reacted exactly as Wesley predicted. Trust funds were frozen, credit cards were canceled, and both young men were facing serious conversations about their life choices and future financial support. But the most satisfying development came from an unexpected source: Jonas Lockhart's baby mama in Portland. She'd received Wesley's tip about Jonas's location and contacted both immigration authorities and child support enforcement. Jonas, who'd been counting on his yoga instructor visa to stay in Mexico, found himself detained at the Los Cabos airport, facing deportation and extradition for unpaid support obligations. "He's looking at 18 months in minimum security prison," Wesley reported over coffee, "plus full back support payments with interest. His yoga career is effectively over." I felt a deep satisfaction knowing that Verina's favorite lover was facing real consequences. But that was just the beginning. "What about the viral video?" I asked. Wesley grinned. "Exponential growth. 300,000 views overnight, picked up by 6 news blogs, and someone created a remix that's even more popular than the original." He showed me his laptop screen. The hashtag #ResortRavager was trending nationally, with thousands of people sharing their own stories of vacation cheating and relationship betrayal. Verina had become the face of entitled middle-aged infidelity. "She's going to have trouble getting work," Wesley observed. "Travel agent reputation is everything, and nobody wants to hire someone known for scamming clients and cheating on family trips." As if summoned by our conversation, my phone rang. Verina's name appeared on the screen. I answered on speaker so Wesley could hear. "What do you want?" "I want this to stop." Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying all night. "Take down the video. Stop sending information to people. Let's handle this like adults." Adults don't lie to their families for years. Adults don't steal money from their spouses. Adults don't use their children as cover for affairs. "I'll give back the money. I'll go to counseling. I'll do whatever you want, but please stop destroying my life." "Your life was destroyed the moment you decided to betray everyone who loved you. I'm just making sure everyone else knows who you really are." "What about Laura? You're hurting her too with this public humiliation." That stopped me cold. My daughter had already been through enough trauma without dealing with national attention. Laura's name hasn't been mentioned in any of the coverage. As far as the public knows, you went to Mexico alone. But people at her school will figure it out. Her friends will see the video and know it's me. Then you should have thought about that before you decided to perform for strangers at a resort. I ended the call and immediately felt a pang of guilt. Verina was right about one thing. Laura could be collateral damage in this war. "She's got a point," Wesley said carefully. "High school kids can be brutal. Once they connect Laura to the viral video, she's going to face questions." I thought about my daughter, who'd already shown incredible maturity and courage throughout this crisis. She deserved protection, not more trauma. "I'll talk to her," I decided. "Give her the choice about what happens next." I found Laura in the kitchen eating cereal while scrolling through her phone. She looked up when I entered, her expression unreadable. "Dad, have you seen what people are saying online?" I sat down beside her. "Some of it. Are you okay?" She showed me her phone screen. The comments on the viral video were savage, calling Verina everything from homewrecker to pathetic middle-aged hoe. Memes had already been created, and parody accounts were posting fake conversations with resort staff. "It's everywhere," Laura said quietly. "My friends are texting me about it. They haven't figured out its mom yet, but it's only a matter of time." "I can stop this," I told her. "I can take down the video, issue a statement, make it all go away. It's your choice." Laura set down her phone and looked directly at me. "What would happen to Mom if you stopped?" "She'd probably get away with everything. No consequences for the cheating, the lying, the stealing. She'd find a way to blame me for the divorce and move on with her life. And if you don't stop," I considered how to answer honestly without traumatizing her further, "she'll face consequences, real ones. Her career will be over, her reputation will be destroyed, and everyone will know what kind of person she really is." Laura was quiet for a long moment, staring out the kitchen window at the suburban street where she'd grown up. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Did you ever suspect, before this trip, I mean? Did you know she was cheating?" The question hit me like a physical blow. I'd been so focused on revenge that I hadn't really examined my own blindness to Verina's betrayal. "No," I admitted. I trusted her completely. I believed every business trip, every explanation, every lie. I was an idiot. You weren't an idiot. You loved her. Laura reached over and squeezed my hand. But Dad, I've been thinking about all those trips. The expensive clothes she'd bring home. The way she'd act different for weeks afterward. The stories that never quite made sense. What are you saying? I'm saying I suspected something was wrong, but I didn't want to believe it. And if I had figured it out and told you, would you have believed me? I thought about the answer honestly. A year ago, if my teenage daughter had accused her mother of cheating, would I have taken it seriously, or would I have dismissed it as typical parent-child conflict? I don't know, I said finally. I hope so, but I honestly don't know. Laura nodded like that was the answer she'd expected. Then don't stop. She made her choices, and now she needs to face the consequences. If you stop now, she'll just find new ways to hurt people. The maturity in her voice was startling. In the span of a week, my teenage daughter had transformed into someone wiser and harder than many adults I knew. Are you sure? Once this goes any further, there's no taking it back. I'm sure. Just, can you make sure people know I wasn't part of it? I don't want anyone thinking I helped her or knew what she was doing. I'll handle that, I promised. Wesley, who'd been listening from the doorway, stepped into the kitchen. Actually, I have an idea about that. What if Laura tells her own story? We both looked at him. Think about it, Wesley continued. Right now, she's a sufferer in this situation. Her mother used her as cover for affairs, lied to her, and put her in an impossible position. If she speaks up, she controls her own narrative instead of letting other people define her role. Absolutely not, I said immediately. I'm not putting my daughter in front of cameras. Not cameras, Wesley clarified. Social media. A simple video statement explaining her side of the story showed that she's the innocent sufferer of her mother's choices, not a participant. Laura was already nodding. That could work. If I explain what really happened from my perspective, people will understand that I was being manipulated too. I didn't like it, but I could see the logic. Better for Laura to control her own story than let strangers on the internet create one for her. What would you say? I asked. Laura thought for a moment. The truth. That I thought we were going on a mother-daughter vacation. That I was shocked and horrified when I saw what she was really doing. That I contacted you because I didn't know what else to do. And that you're proud of your father for standing up to a liar and a cheater, Wesley added. Really drive home that this is about justice, not revenge. I looked at my daughter, trying to reconcile the mature young woman in front of me with the little girl who used to ask me to read bedtime stories. If you do this, there's no going back. You'll be part of a viral story that millions of people will see. Dad, I'm already part of it. Mom made sure of that when she brought me to Mexico to watch her cheat. At least this way, I get to tell my side. I made my decision. Okay, but we do it right. Professional quality, clear message, and we release it strategically to maximum impact. Wesley was already pulling out his camera equipment. I can have something edited and uploaded within an hour. As we prepared for what would become the most watched video in the entire Resort Ravager saga, my phone buzzed with another call from Verena. This time, I didn't answer. Laura's video was a masterpiece of emotional manipulation disguised as heartfelt honesty. Wesley filmed her in our living room, natural lighting from the windows creating a soft, sympathetic atmosphere. She wore a simple sweater and minimal makeup, looking every inch the innocent teenager betrayed by her mother's selfishness. Hi, I'm Laura Farron, she began, her voice steady but emotional. You might have seen a viral video of my mother, Verena Farron, being confronted by my father at a resort in Mexico. I want to tell you what really happened from my perspective. She spoke for exactly 4 minutes, explaining how she'd believed they were going on a bonding vacation, how she'd discovered her mother's affairs, and how she'd been forced to document the betrayal to protect herself and her father. I watched my mother lie to strangers about being divorced, Laura said, her voice cracking slightly. I watched her take money and gifts from men while telling them she was single. I watched her use our family vacation as cover for affairs with multiple men, including resort staff. The emotional climax came when she described calling me for help. I was 17 years old, alone in a foreign country, watching my mother destroy our family. I didn't know what else to do except call my dad and tell him the truth. He flew to Mexico not to humiliate my mother, but to protect me from a situation I couldn't handle alone. She finished with a direct appeal to viewers. My father isn't the villain in this story. He's a man who worked for 19 years to provide for his family, only to discover that his wife was stealing from him and lying to everyone. If you want to judge someone, judge the person who brought her teenage daughter on vacation to watch her cheat. Wesley edited the video with subtle but effective touches, soft music, occasional close-ups during emotional moments, and text overlays, highlighting key points. When we uploaded it to YouTube and shared it across social media platforms, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 2 hours, #Team Lara was trending alongside #Resort Ravager. The comments were uniformly supportive. This brave girl saved her father from a lying cheater. Imagine having to police your own mother's behavior on vacation. The real sufferer here is this poor kid who had to watch her family fall apart. Dad of the year for protecting his daughter from that psycho. The narrative had shifted completely. Instead of a bitter divorce dispute, this was now a story about a courageous teenager exposing her mother's fraud to protect her family. Verena called within minutes of the video going live.
How could you let her do that?
She screamed into the phone.
She's 17 years old. You're using our daughter as a weapon against me.
I'm not using anyone, I replied calmly. Lara chose to tell her story because she was tired of being portrayed as your accomplice. She wanted people to know the truth. The truth? She's making me sound like a monster. You are a monster. You used your own daughter as cover for criminal behavior. You stole from your family, lied to strangers, and committed fraud across multiple states. Lara is just making sure people understand who the real sufferer is. I want to see her. I want to explain. Explain what? How bringing her to Mexico to watch you cheat was actually a bonding experience? How stealing $40,000 from our savings was really for her benefit? Verena was crying now, her voice barely coherent. Please, Noel, I know I made mistakes, but she's still my daughter. I love her. You don't love anyone except yourself. If you loved Lara, you wouldn't have put her in this position. If you loved me, you wouldn't have stolen from me and lied for years. What do you want, money? I'll pay back every penny. Public apology? I'll do whatever you want, just please stop this. I looked around our kitchen, where Lara was reading supportive comments from strangers who understood her situation better than her own mother did. I want you to disappear, I said quietly. I want you to accept the divorce terms, take your belongings, and find somewhere else to live. I want you to leave us alone so we can rebuild our lives without your lies poisoning everything. And if I don't, then this gets much worse for you. The video evidence I have so far is just the beginning. You committed felony fraud in multiple states, tax evasion, and probably dozens of other crimes I haven't even identified yet. Right now, your only consequences are social and financial. Keep pushing and they'll become legal. The line went quiet except for the sound of Verena's sobbing. I'll call you tomorrow, she finally whispered, and hung up. I set down the phone and looked at Wesley, who'd been monitoring social media throughout our conversation. How bad is it getting for her? I asked. Wesley showed me his laptop screen. Her travel agency's Yelp page is getting bombed with 1-star reviews. Her personal Facebook and Instagram accounts have been flooded with screenshots from the viral video. Someone found her LinkedIn profile and shared it with the hashtag #Don'tHireThisCheater. What about the financial stuff? Bank called this morning. They're opening a formal fraud investigation based on the evidence I provided. Could take months to resolve, which means the account freeze stays in place. I felt a grim satisfaction watching Verena's carefully constructed life crumble in real time, but there was still work to do. What's next? I asked. Wesley closed his laptop and leaned back in his chair. Honestly, we've already won. Her reputation is destroyed, her income is gone, her relationship with Lara is severed, and she's facing potential criminal charges. Most people would call it complete victory. But you asked me to destroy her completely. Right now, she could still disappear somewhere, change her name, start over in a new city. If you want to guarantee she never hurts anyone else, we need to make sure her consequences are permanent. I thought about all the men Verena had scammed, all the families she'd damaged, all the lies she'd told over the years. How many other William Pattersons were out there dealing with the fallout of her manipulation? How many other wives were discovering their husband's affair with a professional con artist? What would that look like? I asked. Criminal charges? Real ones with prison time. Turn over everything to the FBI, the dating profiles, the financial records, the evidence of fraud across state lines. Let federal prosecutors decide if she belongs in prison. The idea was tempting. Verena behind bars. unable to hurt anyone else, forced to face real consequences for years of criminal behavior. But it would also mean more publicity, more legal proceedings, more time spent focused on her instead of rebuilding our lives. Let me think about it, I said. That evening, I found Lara in her room doing homework, as if nothing unusual had happened. Her video had reached over 1 million views, and she'd become a minor internet celebrity, but she was still a high school senior with calculus problems to solve. "How are you handling all this?" I asked, sitting on the edge of her bed. "Better than I expected. It feels good to tell the truth after watching her lie for so long." "Any regrets?" She set down her pencil and looked at me seriously. "Dad, can I ask you something? What happens to Mom now?" "That depends on her. If she accepts the divorce terms and goes away quietly, she can probably rebuild somewhere else. If she keeps fighting, things will get much worse." "Do you think she'll go away quietly?" I considered the question. In 19 years of marriage, I'd never seen Verena accept defeat gracefully. She was competitive, stubborn, and convinced that she could talk her way out of any situation. "No," I said honestly. "I think she'll keep fighting until she has no choice." Lara nodded like that was the answer she'd expected. "Then you'll have to be ready for whatever she does next." "Are you ready for whatever she does next?" My daughter looked at me with an expression far older than her 17 years. "Dad, I've been watching her manipulate people my entire life. I know how she thinks, how she operates, what buttons she pushes to get what she wants. The difference is, now I'm on your side instead of hers." "What do you mean?" "I mean she's going to try to use me against you. She'll claim you're alienating her from her daughter, that you're using me as a weapon, that you're poisoning me against her." Lara paused. "But it won't work, because I saw what she really is." "And what is she?" "A liar who cares more about herself than her family, someone who would destroy the people who love her if it gets her what she wants." Lara picked up her pencil again. "I'm not going to let her do that to us." I kissed her forehead and left her to finish her homework. In the hallway, I could hear my phone buzzing with another call from Verena. I didn't answer. Verena's counterattack began 3 days later with a Facebook post that was shared thousands of times before I even saw it. "I made mistakes in my marriage, but I never expected my husband to use our daughter as a weapon against me. What you've seen online is a carefully orchestrated campaign to destroy me financially and emotionally. I'm not the monster they're portraying. I'm a woman who made bad choices and is now being punished by a vindictive ex-husband who's turned my own child against me." Hash mothers separated from children hash. Divorce bullying hash. Tell the whole story. The post included carefully cropped photos of her and Lara from previous vacations, along with screenshots of loving text messages between them from before the Mexico trip. She'd crafted a narrative that portrayed me as an abusive control freak and herself as a sufferer of parental alienation. Within hours, she was giving interviews to online bloggers and local news stations, presenting herself as the wronged party in our divorce. Her story was simple. Yes, she'd had an affair, but that didn't justify the public humiliation campaign her husband had launched against her. "I made a mistake," she told a sympathetic female blogger. "I was going through a midlife crisis, feeling unappreciated in my marriage, and I made the worst decision of my life. But does that mean I deserve to have my private business shared with millions of strangers? Does that mean I should lose access to my daughter?" The interview was professionally done, with soft lighting and emotional music. Verena wore a conservative outfit and minimal makeup, looking like a wounded mother rather than a resort party girl. She cried at appropriate moments and spoke about her love for Lara with apparent sincerity. "My daughter is everything to me," she said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "I would do anything to protect her, including accepting responsibility for my mistakes. But her father is using the situation to completely cut me out of her life. That's not justice. That's revenge." The interview gained traction on social media, with some people beginning to question whether my response had been disproportionate. Comments started appearing that portrayed me as the villain. "Yeah, she cheated, but did she deserve to have her entire life destroyed? This guy seems obsessed with revenge. What kind of father uses his kid against her mom? Both parents are trash, but that poor girl is caught in the middle." Wesley called me immediately after the interview aired. "We need to respond to this fast. She's changing the narrative from cheating wife to victimized mother. What do you recommend?" "Release everything. All the evidence, all the financial records, all the dating profiles. Show people who she really is instead of letting her control the story." I hesitated. Escalation meant more attention, more drama, more time spent on Verena instead of healing. "There's something else," Wesley continued. I got a call from a reporter at Channel 7. Apparently, 3 other women have come forward claiming Verena scammed their husbands at resort destinations over the past 2 years. They want to do a full investigative piece. That changed everything. This wasn't just about our family anymore. Verena had been running systematic cons on multiple sufferers. Set up the interview, I said. The Channel 7 investigation aired on a Thursday evening and was devastating in its thoroughness. The reporter, an experienced journalist named Patricia Holmes, had spent weeks verifying our evidence and tracking down additional sufferers. The segment opened with the original viral video, then expanded to show the scope of Verena's operation. 3 other families had been affected by her scams: a marriage in Phoenix destroyed after she targeted the husband at a Scottsdale resort, a couple in Austin facing bankruptcy after the wife discovered her husband's business trip expenses, and a retiree in Florida who'd spent his life savings on a woman he met during a cruise. Each family told their story on camera, showing photographs, financial records, and social media evidence. The pattern was identical in every case. Verena would create a fake dating profile, target wealthy men at resort destinations, pose as a recently divorced travel agent looking for companionship, and systematically extract money and gifts before disappearing. This wasn't cheating, Patricia Holmes explained to the camera. This was organized fraud conducted across multiple states over several years. According to financial records obtained by Channel 7, Verena Farron collected over $90,000 from various sufferers between 2023 and early 2025. The segment included interviews with law enforcement officials discussing the potential charges Verena could face: wire fraud, interstate commerce violations, tax evasion, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. When someone runs systematic scams across state lines, it becomes a federal matter, explained FBI agent Sarah Chen. We're reviewing all evidence provided by the sufferers and considering appropriate charges. The most damaging part came at the end, when Patricia Holmes revealed additional evidence that Wesley had uncovered. Verena had been planning to leave me and take half our assets regardless of her affairs. Text messages between Verena and someone identified only as Sandra showed a months-long discussion about divorce strategy, asset hiding, and custody manipulation. The messages revealed that her Mexico trip was intended to be a final payday before filing for divorce and claiming spousal support. Once I get back from Mexico, I'll file the papers and claim emotional misuse, one message read. Noel's too nice to fight dirty, so I'll get the house and alimony. Then I can do whatever I want. What about Laura? Sandra had replied. She'll understand when she's older. Kids always blame the father anyway. The revelation that Verena had been planning to destroy our family regardless of her affairs hit me like a physical blow. Even if I'd never discovered her cheating, she would have stolen half our assets and poisoned our daughter against me. The segment ended with Patricia Holmes asking viewers to contact authorities if they'd been victimized by similar scams, and provided a tip line for additional information. Within an hour of the broadcast, that tip line was flooded with calls. Verena's response to the Channel 7 investigation was swift and predictable. She hired a crisis management firm and a high-powered attorney, then held a press conference denying all allegations of systematic fraud. These are cherry-picked text messages taken out of context, her lawyer claimed. My client admits to infidelity, which she deeply regrets. But these fraud allegations are completely fabricated by a vindictive ex-husband. Verena herself looked haggard and defensive, a far cry from the sympathetic sufferer she'd portrayed in earlier interviews. I never scammed anyone, she insisted, to a room full of skeptical reporters. I met people on vacation, had relationships, and accepted gifts. That's not fraud, that's dating. What about the fake divorce claims? Patricia Holmes asked. Multiple witnesses say you told them you were divorced. I was separated from my husband emotionally, even if not legally. People interpret things differently. What about the $90,000 collected from various men over 2 years? I never asked for money. If people chose to be generous, that's their decision. The press conference was a disaster. Verena's answers were evasive and unconvincing. Her lawyer kept interrupting reporters, and her body language screamed guilt to anyone watching. More damaging, 2 additional sufferers called the news station during the live broadcast, providing real-time evidence that contradicted Verena's claims. By the end of the week, the FBI had announced a formal investigation into interstate fraud charges. Verena's assets were frozen pending the outcome, and she was advised not to leave the Denver metro area. I felt a deep satisfaction watching her carefully constructed life collapse completely. But I also felt something unexpected. Exhaustion. For 3 weeks, I'd focused entirely on destroying Verena and exposing her crimes. I'd succeeded beyond my wildest expectations. She was facing federal charges, social destruction, and financial ruin. Her reputation was permanently destroyed. Her criminal behavior was documented, and she'd never be able to hurt another family. But the victory felt hollow. I'd spent so much energy on revenge that I'd neglected to consider what came next. "You did it," Wesley said over coffee the morning after the FBI announcement. "Complete victory. She's finished." "Yeah," I agreed, but I didn't feel celebratory. "So what now?" "You and Laura can move on, start fresh, maybe relocate if you want a clean slate." I looked around our kitchen, thinking about the life Verena and I had built here, and how completely it had been destroyed. Even with her gone, the house felt contaminated by memories and lies. "I think we might do that," I said. "Laura's starting college in the fall anyway. Maybe it's time for both of us to begin somewhere new." Wesley nodded. "Fresh start sounds good. You've earned it." But before we could move forward, Verena had one final move to make. The confrontation I'd been expecting came on a rainy Saturday morning 2 weeks after the FBI announcement. I was reading the newspaper when I heard shouting from the front yard. Verena was standing in our driveway, screaming at the house while neighbors watched from their windows. She looked terrible. Unwashed hair, wrinkled clothes, the appearance of someone who'd been sleeping in her car. "Noel, I know you're in there. Come out and face me like a man." I looked out the window and saw her holding something in her hand. For a moment, I thought it might be a weapon, but as she raised it above her head, I realized it was a brick. "You want to destroy me? Fine, but I'm taking this house with me." She hurled the brick at our front window, shattering the glass and sending fragments across the living room floor. I called 911 while moving toward the back of the house where Laura was hiding in her bedroom.
Dad, what's happening?
She asked, fear evident in her voice.
Your mother's having a breakdown.
"Stay here," and lock the door. By the time I returned to the front of the house, Verena had found more rocks and was systematically destroying our windows. Neighbors had come outside to watch the spectacle, and someone was filming with their phone. "This is all your fault," she screamed when she saw me through the broken window. "You turned everyone against me. You destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life the moment you decided to betray your family. I made one mistake. One stupid mistake, and you've ruined everything." "One mistake? You've been running cons for years. You stole from our family, lied to our daughter, and planned to destroy our marriage regardless." She threw another rock, this one aimed at my head. I ducked, and it shattered the window behind me. "I loved you," she sobbed. 19 years and it meant nothing to you. It meant everything to me. That's why your betrayal hurt so much." Police sirens were getting closer, but Verena didn't seem to care. She was completely lost in her rage and self-pity. "You could have forgiven me." Other husbands forgive their wives. Other wives don't turn cheating into a criminal enterprise. Other wives don't use their children as cover for fraud. I never meant for Laura to get hurt. But you didn't care if she did, as long as you got what you wanted. The police arrived just as Verena picked up another rock. 3 officers approached cautiously, hands near their weapons. "Ma'am, put down the rock and step away from the house," the lead officer commanded. Verena looked around wildly, seeming to realize for the first time that she'd created a public spectacle. Neighbors were recording everything. Police were surrounding her, and she was holding potential weapons while trespassing on property she'd been legally barred from entering. "This is my house, too," she yelled at the officers. "You can't just lock me out." "Ma'am, we have a restraining order that says otherwise. You need to come with us." "I'm not going anywhere." "This is my family." She tried to throw the rock at the police, but one of the officers tackled her before she could complete the motion. The arrest was swift and professional, but Verena fought every step of the way, screaming obscenities and threats while being handcuffed. "This isn't over, Noel," she shouted as they loaded her into the patrol car. "You think you've won, but this isn't over." I watched the police car drive away, taking my wife of 19 years to jail for the first time in her life. Laura appeared beside me, surveying the damage to our front yard and windows. "Is it over now?" she asked quietly. I put my arm around her shoulders and looked at our broken house, thinking about everything we'd lost and everything we'd gained over the past month. "Yeah," I said. "It's over." The final chapter of Verena's story played out over the following 6 months with mechanical precision. She was convicted of multiple federal fraud charges and sentenced to 3 years in prison. Her travel agency declared bankruptcy after clients discovered her criminal history. The house we'd shared was sold to pay legal fees and restitution to her sufferers. Laura and I moved to Portland, where I'd accepted a promotion with Mitchell Logistics. She enrolled at Portland State University for the fall semester, choosing to study business with a focus on ethics and fraud prevention. "I want to help people avoid what happened to our family," she explained when I asked about her major choice. "Maybe prevent other kids from watching their parents destroy each other." Verena wrote letters from prison, hundreds of them, begging for forgiveness, claiming she'd found religion, promising to change if we'd just give her another chance. I read the first few, then started throwing them away unopened. Laura refused to read any of them. She had 19 years to be a good mother and wife, she said. I'm not giving her more time to manipulate me with fake apologies. The viral videos eventually faded from public attention, replaced by newer scandals and fresher outrage. But the hashtag #ResortRavager still appeared occasionally, usually when someone shared a story about vacation infidelity or middle-age fraud. Wesley kept me updated on the aftermath. William Patterson divorced his wife, but managed to rebuild his marriage after extensive counseling. Steve Morrison lost his construction job, but found work in a different city. The college kids' parents used the experience as an expensive lesson about trust and consequences. Jonas Lockhart served his time for unpaid child support and was deported to Canada, where he worked as a dishwasher in a small-town restaurant. His yoga instructor career was permanently finished. All of Verena's sufferers recovered financially and emotionally. Most of them thanked me for exposing her pattern of behavior before she could hurt more families. I never felt guilty about any of it.